and just resorted to violence. I am hoping that BLG bounce back because we were talking about it, Flowers, at the World Finals last year. The first 3 games, stomp, stomp, stomp. You know what I mean? And so I'm hoping that this was just a precursor, that BLG will be able to fight back and we'll get the 5-game series that we deserve when these two teams fight against one another. We know the caliber of these BLG players. I imagine they will brush that aside and bounce back here in game 2.
Exactly. You go back to the World Final, it was a back and forth every time up until T1 had to win 2 in a row in games 4 and 5 to win the series. So let's see if BLG can keep that pattern going here and find their way to a T1 weak spot in game 2, as T1 were looking good in that first one. BLG over here on the blue side, they're going to continue to ban away that Azir. They're also going to ban out the TF. Over on T1 side, they'll continue paying respect to the Gwen from Bin, and they're also going to make sure that BLG doesn't get to get their hands on a blue side first pick Varus.
Let's see what the priority is here for these teams, with both the Pantheon and the Poppy already taken out. Vi immediately raises in value. Poppy, such a good answer into the champion. BLG taking away Faker's Galio. He did lose on it when playing against CFO, but I mean, it's Faker. You always got to respect the man's Galio. The question is, will this Vi be banned away by the side of T1? Because you just expect it to be that first pick.
The Galio was also the champion in Game 5 of the World Finals that Faker had the miracle survival on in that topside team fight that really just was that final unkillable moment as the Vi is banned out and BLG, first pick, what's it going to be?
Annie Wukong?
There it is.
Annie Wukong.
Nice.
Okay, so T1, will they choose to remove the Wukong away from Beishuan, or will they allow it? Or will they allow him to have it and have some sort of response? So far from Owner, we've been seeing a lot of just high-impact junglers. We've seen Xin, Wukong. We saw a Zed game from him, the Jarvan and the Sejuani so far at this tournament. Both acting as a front line, but also acting as a carry player. It looks like that he's leaning more towards the front line with the Victor locked in for Faker. The champion hasn't had the most success here at MSI. However, in Faker's hands, it is a big comfort pick, and it does seem like with their priority around getting Faker something comfortable in the mid lane matchup, they just want to make sure that they get him a control mage that he can have control in the lane and also scale nicely into the mid to late game.
Yeah, you could see the win-loss for MSI, 1 and 5 on this champion. The only thing I'm concerned about is when you look at the last game, Faker had so many clutch moments where he would utilize the shockwave to start off a play that the rest of T1 could then follow up on. Victor cannot start plays. His only CC is a delayed gravity well. It's not like you place it down and then dare the guy to stand on it for 2 seconds so that you can start the fight. However, Owner will be on that Xin Zhao like you're talking about, but BLG happy to complete the Annie Wukong combo. And what's that? The champion that Bin played for the first 3 games in a row in that World Final, the Rumble for Bin. BLG's cooking.
This is quite the wombo combo that BLG have crafted for themselves. Cheeky hovers coming through from T1, but it will be Doran's Ornn. So that's going to be the primary engage. Things like Braum now rise in priority. You have to imagine that that's likely going to be high on the ban list for T1. Maybe they even want to grab it for themselves. We'll have to wait and see. But the bot lane's available for both sides. We know how deep the AD carry pool is for both of these players. My instincts say that BLG is immediately looking at something like the Misfortune. Just double down on the teamfight style that you're already heading in the direction of. That means that Rel and Leona also offer massive value in this composition, either as a follow-up or as an engage tool themselves alongside the Wukong.
And I think this second game, there's going to be a lot more pressure on Doran. You and I were joking a little bit between the games about how Doran just got to kind of enjoy the passenger top laner lifestyle in game number 1, just split pushing the rest of the team, making all the big plays. But this time around, without Faker having the playmaking ability like he'd had on the Orianna, and Doran being on this big go button with the Ornn, there's the pressure on him to find the right angles, find the right times to start these team fights off. Lulu Kaisa banned out by T1 in the second half. The Rakan removed by BLG.
Kaisa is the concern from T1, recognizing the potential backline access and dive that is available, so they'll remove that. But MF rising in priority here for Elk. They could also just pair it alongside the Ezreal if they want something a little bit safer, a little bit more long range. The Lucian, once again, going to be denied from Gumayusi. They do not want to have to deal with that. So what will the first pick be here? The Caitlyn hover, and it's going to be locked in. Okay, so T1 going for very much a front-to-back style of composition with Victor and Caitlyn paired alongside the Ornn. You can see how the game plan is going to work out. Karma is going to be a prevalent pick. We haven't seen Lux paired alongside the Caitlyn, but it is a tried and true combo that we've seen this bot lane bring out before. Of course, if they want to play safe, they can also play the Braum themselves. There's that Ezreal that we were talking about. Can match the range in the sense that you can play very safe with the Ezreal on the back line.
Yep.
And also Arel, not a champion that's designed for peeling, but it is a champion designed for engaging. So when paired up alongside the Ezreal, Elk can play independently without relying on On, whereas On is going to be working with his team to dominate in the team fights.
These team fights from BLG are absolutely ferocious. Rel, Wukong, and Annie all have the ability to start the fight. Then the other two can follow up. You drop the Rumble ult over the top. You bring the True Shot Barrage in too. Every single champion contributes to this massive AoE damage dump, and T1 cannot get caught in it. Anybody that those 5 abilities overlap on, you are gone. Your screen is black and white for the next little while.
T1 bringing out the Braum to try and mitigate some of that engaged strength that BLG have crafted for themselves. It's only the first game, but we could feel the pressure that T1 was able to exert on the MSI stage. BLG have faced that pressure before, though. Early game, likely towards the top side of the map. Doran was a point where he fell short. They were able to find a lot of successful ganks. If they could put the Rumble in a great position, the mid-game spike from BLG, Trinity Force on the Wukong, Trinity Force on the Ezreal, is a big spike that they're going to want to try and play around.
And in game number 1, you could see the killer instinct from BLG that they wanted to express, right? When you think back to Elk and On chasing so deep in the top side team fight. When you think back to mid lane after they get the first pick and it looks like they're gonna get the second before Faker and Owner turn it around. BLG is so bloodthirsty in these fights, but they just didn't quite have enough firepower. This time around, I think they got it.
Game 2, and the crowd here in Vancouver continues to deliver. BLG versus T1, always an exciting matchup. So far in the early game, it looks like that we're going to play relatively safe. We're expecting that early ward to come through from both sides to try and track where the jungler is starting and what they're up to in this early game.
Still have the combat summoner, or not summoner, keystone there for the Rel on the side of BLG. Meanwhile, Keria running that summoner spellbook on the Braum. And when we heard from T1 about the possibility of playing BLG in this rematch, how they were feeling about it, what they thought about it, Faker said he didn't expect BLG to be as tough as the Oysters were after that best of 5. Gumayusi said that BLG is going to relive the nightmare of last year's World Finals and coming so close only to falter there at the finish line. Their game 1 performance lived up to their words.
I will say that Gumayusi throwing out some trash talk, kind of par for the course. Faker throwing out trash talk? That man is one of the most humble esports players that I know. So to hear that from him was a surprise, but I absolutely love it. T1 backing up their words, as you rightly said, after game 1. But I imagine we're going to start the game off a little bit slower.
Okay.
Similar to what we saw in game 1, just a bit of trading back and forth. We expect T1 to be the team to initiate that early swap, get the Ornn onto the weak side of the map to play into the 2 versus 1. For the time being, Gumayusi going to leverage his range to try and get that early push, chip away at the HP bars where he can, and potentially look for an early back and then a swap towards the top side.
Now, one important difference between game 2 and game 1, Doran did not find himself in a nasty 1v2 situation before the minion spawn. He was not forced to use that flash early, so there's no extra incentive for Beishwan to path up towards that top side, try to make a play towards Doran this time around. You can see both of the junglers actually doing their clears, going opposite directions. Beishwan will be moving towards that bottom lane as Owner paths towards the top side. Tri-lane camera just showing the state of everything, a little bit of trading back and forth on the one who's taken the most damage of anyone anywhere, as Gumayusi, just like you already said, the power of the Caitlyn early on. Every chance you get, utilize that 650 range, find those little pot shots to build yourself that lane advantage.
Both junglers were spotted on vision as well, so everyone on the Rift is very much aware of what the early game plan is for both these junglers. T1 going to drop some vision on the ward in anticipation of a potential early gank, and On is looking to try and clear it out. Won't actually spot that ward. This means that there's a possibility of an early jungle gank. That's very much what On is signaling. We'll dismount for the time being, keeping my eyes on Beishwan. In from Elk, a little low on mana. The trade not really turning into much.
Yep. That's the nature of Braum, though. He jumps in the way, you throw up the door, the fireplace, I suppose, on this skin, and immediately negates all of the quick trade that wanted to be accomplished there from the Ezreal, as Beishwan has made his way down to this bottom side river. Standing on top of a ward, though, T1's going to be aware of the presence of BLG's jungler, so they'll continue to just play this one defensively. It doesn't really have to alter their behavior too much. A lot of times, if you're playing super aggressive and then you back off, it lets the enemy know, hey, that area is warded, but they have been playing relatively safely, as Beishwan now going to try to wrap around again, but he's still walking over top of that ward. T1 now, though, might be caught a little bit off guard, as Beishwan does decide to try to wrap the long way through the tri-brush. Decides to go for a recall now. Keria going to step up into that brush, saying, okay, we know that this guy was nearby. Gumayushi using the cleanse there, as immediately, as soon as there's distance between Keria and Guma, Elk and On try to step forward, play a little bit more aggressively.
Rona here to Shadow, making sure that his bot lane is well protected. Yeah, losing that cleanse, not ideal for Guma. Not the end of the world, though. Will take a bit of damage from Elk as he connects the Q. But now both junglers need to return to their respective sides of the map. The ping will come down. Ooh. The ping will come down from Beishwan onto Ona, spotting him out. He did drop that ward into that bot side of T1's jungle, as Doran and Bin continue to trade on the top side. Close affair here in the bot side of the map. Elk doing a good job considering how much pressure Gumayushi is continuing to try to put down. Nice chunk.
Ooh, nice follow-up there, too. Whenever you can get the stun from the Braum, you set the Yordle snap trap right underneath their feet. It'll arm by the time the first stun is done. You'll get the second stun, you'll prime the headshot, and it makes for a very mean combination there, as Guma and Keria will crash the wave into the turret. Knight's down to 100 HP here against Faker's Victor, but Faker is almost completely out of mana, now hitting level 6. Does have enough for maybe one more spell, as Knight will take the opportunity, start his first recall, make his way back to lane. Does have TP for all 4 of our solo laners as per usual, but remember, Elk on the Ezreal, this is one of the 80 carries you very commonly see teleport taken as that second summoner, so an extra TP as the game moves forward. We'll see how well BLG can leverage that for their own macro game advantages. Checking in back on the top side, you can see Doran slightly behind in farm, but honestly, as the Ornn against the Rumble, you're fine with that, and just like you were predicting earlier, T1 wants to get him down into that bot side of the map here nice and early, but BLG responds by sending Bin down there at the exact same time.
TP.
Everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. BLG able to match the lane assignments from T1, and they're going to keep things standard for now. As mentioned, Elk and On doing a good job against this Caitlyn, who continues to try and trade, but not really converting it into much. Faker's put a huge amount of pressure down on tonight, but he himself has also been farming very well, so it's a very slow and steady affair here, 6 minutes in. Dragon becomes a point of contention, as the Scuttle Crab is what they're setting their sights on for now.
Ooh, Knight drops the combo there on Faker, but now Doran launching out the Ornn Horn. Beishwan could be in a little bit of danger, but Bin's here ready to back him up. The equalizer's already been used. Doran very low, about to die. It's first blood over to Knight and BLG.
An ambitious commitment from Doran. They thought that they got the chain combo onto Beishwan, but Faker wasn't in a position to follow. And with a composition like this, you really don't want to try and rush these type of fights. I mean, look, Faker's sitting on a catalyst. You really don't have that much damage this early on into the game. So a bit of an overforce there from Doran. Means that BLG find themselves with first blood once more.
Tibbers constantly so annoying with the Molten Shell on it as he continues to harass Faker with that. Knight going for the early Ionian Boots of Lucidity also makes it so much easier for him to rotate down into those multi-man skirmishes in that bottom side of the river. As we do have a pause, we'll let you guys know as soon as we figure out exactly what's going on with that one, as BLG is off to a nice start here in the second game.
They certainly are. BLG with a nice punish on the bot side of the map. thing is, we're in a situation where both bot laners are on the top side, so I expect Grubs to be the next main point of contention rather than the Dragon, unless one side decides to try and cross-map, which wouldn't be unreasonable from T1, as we talked about. I think they want to play a much slower early game. When you're running Victor Caitlyn, there's no need to overforce anything. We've definitely seen Caitlyn games kind of just come out the gate swinging, especially when we saw that it was from BLG, the Caitlyn Elise game, where at level 2 they were diving towers, they were roaming around the map, they were snowballing the game incredibly quickly. But this time around, I think that because they want to play more of that front-to-back style, they want to leverage their range, they don't want to try and overforce things, especially against an Annie, that double Trinity Force spike they've got to be cautious of. If they take a bunch of bad fights early, it just accelerates those spikes on the side of BLG, which means that they can then force you into more Dragon fights and they can then continue to compound that lead. So T1 have to showcase that respect, and I think just trading in the cross map is a wiser choice for them.
It's a cascading problem. The first mistake only makes the second mistake that much easier to manifest, I guess I would say, as this type of situation can be very nerve-wracking when you have a pause in an intense game. Luckily, at least it's at the early stage of the game versus somewhere in the later stages when things can all just come down to that one big team fight. Going back to, again, we're probably going to end up referencing the last time these teams went head-to-head quite often, considering it was such a high-stakes match. It was such a close match going to the full 5 games in the 2024 World Finals. This was not fearless. It was not the one champion per series limit that we're knowing right now in the 2025 reality. So Bin played this Rumble in all 3 of the first games of that series. In all 3 of the Turbo Stomp games, Bin was Rumble, and in 2 out of 3 of those, BLG were the winners. This is a very iconic champion for Bin. He is very good on this, and obviously from the very beginning here, he was able to get into that bottom lane river fight. He has the equalizer, he has the presence, and we'll see how well he can continue building his leads. You can see a massive farm advantage for Bin. Even though he didn't get the kill, he's up 500 gold. He's got the biggest individual gold lead here in the game.
It's interesting because for many Bin followers, this Rumble is definitely a conventional pick. Some will criticize that he isn't like the strongest on Rumble, but then he's had so many good Rumble performances, and I would say that throughout his career, he's definitely had highs and lows on the champion, that's for sure. So far in this game, he has built a very healthy lead over Doran. It does help that Doran did make that mistake in the river as well, as BLG have built themselves up about a 500 gold lead. Elk going to throw the ulti down onto Faker, chip away at his HP bar. And this is an important play when you're setting your sights on the Grubs. You move that bottom lane into mid, you guarantee that mid wave control, and then it makes it very easy to gain access into the river and contest those Grubs. As we mentioned, T1 doing kind of what we expected them to do. Not looking to actually fight the Grubs, but instead cross-map. Playing more towards the Drakes. And I think it's completely fine to get yourself that Drake, because when we talk about that kind of powerful mid-game spike on the side of BLG, if you're conceding Dragons and Grubs and all of these neutral objectives, the problem you find yourself in is that you're forced into a fight when you do not want to take it. So getting that Dragon alleviates some of that pressure, but the sieging power now, thanks to these Grubs secured by BLG, will be something that T1 has to deal with as the game continues.
BLG still with that very modest gold lead. 2 Grubs claimed already. That 3rd one now picked up by Beishuan. So the extra pushing power they have now could build itself into a lot of extra gold if they can knock down a bunch of these plates. And that's going to start up here in the top lane. Doran's the target as it's a 4-man dive onto the T1 top laner. And Doran dies before the second part of the Oran Horn can come through. Beishuan's low, but close isn't good enough for the T1 top, and BLG are out to a 2-0 lead.
BLG had to commit a lot of resources to make that kill happen, though. Guma and Carrier will happily get these plates where they can. The mid-wave was also pushed in, and that's where Bin went to respond. Wise choice by Bin, recognizing that if he'd stayed on the bot side of the map, the risk of a dive was very real. So this cross-map is going to happen. BLG will extend that modest gold lead ever so slightly, but Gumayushi still with a gold advantage over Elk.
But the problem, Vedius, is you're playing turret race against a team that has all 3 of the Grubs. Yes, Guma and Carrier were there first, but they're doing slower progress. BLG's got more men on the objective, and they're spawning these Grubs, doing this true damage over time. At the same time, T1 scrambling to try to defend, buy time for maybe Gumayushi to win this race. The wave is finally cleared out up here in the top side. The last little bit of the HP hangs on for the T1 top lane turret. Gumayushi needs to shove another wave down bottom. There's also only a little bit of HP left on that. Both these turrets just at death's door, but neither one fully claimed.
Those extra resistances being gained by the turrets means that the damage was not enough from either side. BLG forced to retreat. They have to send Knights to go and catch that bot wave. Bin now finds himself in mid. I imagine they're going to move him off to a side soon. You can see on the minimap both AD carries setting their sights in the mid lane. With no neutrals to play for, it very much becomes about farming once again. Continuing to ramp up towards those first major items, potentially fishing for another pick. So far, it's only been Doran that has lost his life in this game too. Gumayushi will now make his way towards mid, keeping my eyes on the minimap as often as I can, tracking what Knight is up to. You'll notice he moves back into the fog of war. He's actually moving towards mid lane himself. I was expecting the Ezreal to head towards there, but they've actually put out up towards the top side of the map. They've kept on hovering around the mid lane for a potential play, or even just to cover Knight in the 2 versus 1. Meanwhile, Faker now finds himself in the side lane with that upgraded E.
Upgraded E, and he's got the Rod of Ages already fully completed and stacking. The only additional item past his starter item he got was the refillable potion, but now he has to flash away. Basewan's ready to follow. Ben's got the follow-up. The turret ain't even dead yet. Oner and Faker wanted to commit for the objective. They'll get it, but at great cost. Turret to T1, double kill over to BLG as Carry and Gumayushi trying to make a play on the Knight, but he's already back to safety.
The wombo combo is beautifully done by BLG on the bot side of the map. They connect the Rumble ultimate onto Faker. The follow-up from Beishwan meant that there was so much CC on top of them that the minion wave gets cleared out incredibly fast. T1 is saying, look, finish the tower, maybe we can turn this around. It's a really good ulti from Oner, but the damage is just too high. That little minion survives for absolutely ages, but it doesn't do enough to keep the mid-jungle alive from T1. One handed over to Bin, another handed over to Beishwan. They claim the feat of warfare. And the good news for T1 is, well, they do get the first tower. 4 kills, I should say, for BLG.
Yeah, the BLG gold lead now. We're not just talking about it as a number that shows a slight lead. This is real meaningful gold at this point. Nearly 2,000 for the side of BLG, as we do have an even state at least on the neutral objectives. T1 with that first Drake, BLG with all 3 grubs. The next Drake spawning in under 60 seconds, as both supports are already starting to play the vision game. Faker does not want to walk too close to on here. It is much easier for the BLG support to engage than for the T1 support to do the same, especially considering Keria still has 25% of the cooldown remaining on the Glacial Fissure. Knight on the Annie now has his first fully completed item as well with the Malignance. Remember, still has those Ionian Boots of Lucidity as well for the extra move speed, the extra ability to rotate around to these plays and back up the rest of that BLG war machine that we've been talking about since draft. The power of the AoE, the power of the combo of all of these ultimates overlapping. That type of a threat can be so dangerous moving towards this next Drake as it spawns, especially since we just saw Bin hit level 11.
Look at the map control that T1 have. They made sure to push in this bot wave. They've got great vision control around the entrances towards the bot side river, but Bin has already moved down. He's now going to help his team get that mid-wave control against Gumayushi, and they're going to gain access to the river first. Faker's pushing out another wave as quickly as he can, and he should be able to do just that, thanks to that upgraded E that he has access to. But BLG still find themselves first into the river. Keria isolated with the mid-jungle duo. BLG not going to waste any time. They know they're stronger. They're going to force this objective.
Yeah, T1's hanging around the area, but I think they're just going to get a front row seat to the dragon dying. BLG pick up their second neutral objective this game. As a TP, though, about to arrive from T1 deep into enemy territory there with the red buff. Doran's made his way in. Beishwan just blocks the winner's bite there with a clone. Doran's just going to make his way back down to the bottom lane as Oner and Keria steal away the enemy red buff. So T1 not going to find anybody straggling, maybe making a greedy clear through the jungle off the back into the dragon take. They are set up to get this wave pushed out down here in the bottom lane, but not a whole lot else to gain from it. The Kanik Rookern now fully completed for Doran. This is usually when the Orange starts to feel comfortable in the matchup against the Rumble. You just allow the shield to tank all of the damage as you clear the waves, but Faker now continuing to try to just keep scaling here on the Victor up in the top side as Bin gets ready to push this wave out. He's got Beishwan hanging around at the same time. If Faker steps too far forward, it could be trouble.
Going to get ulted on by Gumayushi. Going to lose a bit of his HP. Knight has the TP available and is on the bot side of the map as BLG continuing with their pressure. Start off this neutral objective. Carrier's in the area, but I really don't think T1 can look to contest this. They're a little too slow, and this objective is dying way too fast.
Yep, not only is that going to be Rift Herald for the side of BLG, but the third neutral objective secures the third and final feat, guaranteeing that BLG has the extra power on those boots as well. So nice extra power for the LPL #2 seed, as that gold lead has shrank a little bit compared to the peak that was once around 2,000 gold, closer now to about 1K. Doran, though, I mean, the Kanik Rookern, you can see the little bit of purple on the very end of the health bar. The Annie combo doesn't fully remove the shield, so as long as he's only dealing with Bin or Knight, Doran feels pretty good. It's when Beishuan or Elk starts hitting him that the Ornn's going to start feeling a little bit more pressure, as it looks like everybody's just going to go back to the farm game for now. We don't have another objective to fight over for another 3 minutes until the next Drake spawns. Otacon just about 60 seconds after that.
Well, with this Herald, BLG have a lot of options. I love seeing the Herald being utilized to open up this mid tower, especially with Guma acting as gatekeeper to help protect this tower. He's doing a really good job of continuing to clear through waves. Victor's wave clear is not going to make it any easier. He's cautiously stepping up on the top side of the map, wary of the fact that he could get collapsed on. Waiting for a little bit more information. On will be spotted. Doran has to respect it. This should give Faker a little bit more confidence in the top lane 1v1.
Okay, Carrier gives him a Christmas present over the wall here. BLG knows the T1's not going to get caught out on this one, but the thing that I'm immediately drawn to when I look at the scoreboard, very low leads in a couple different directions here, right? 200 over to Owner, 200 over to Knight. Not even that amount back and forth between Gumayushi and On compared to their counterparts. Almost the entire gold lead, Vedius, is the top lane difference between Bin and Doran. So if I'm looking at T1, I'm looking at, can they find a fight where Bin's not very effective? And if I'm looking at BLG, I'm saying we've got to get value out of our equalizers if we want to make sure we're continuing to win these fights. The Rift Herald is summoned up mid lane, but the tier 1 turret is still almost fully healthy. Herald's going to chunk about half of it, now about to die. Owner goes in, immediately drops the Crescent Guard as he engages to make sure that BLG can't immediately burst him down. It buys T1 enough time to clear the Herald out of the way and prevent BLG from strong-arming the tier 1 turret. Now Carrier and Gumayushi got to be a little bit careful. Bin's hanging out over the wall. Might be able to drop an equalizer if somebody on T1 gets low. Carrier doing a nice job sidestepping away from that Mystic shot. 75 seconds until the next Drake spawns, and you can see BLG taking control of the bottom side river.
A lot of time was spent hovering around this mid lane. Faker, though, still very hesitant to push out that top wave. He's been left isolated a lot of this game, and you can see that resulting in the XP advantage. Now Doran caught out.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about, though. Doran is only strong against magical damage. Beishuan does a lot of damage with that stick, and Knight, plenty of extra firepower to back it up there and secure the kill. 5-0 now for BLG as they get the pick on Doran. The tier 1 turret still the target for BLG. Owner and Gumayushi still defending it.
Doran's third death of the game. He got caught out just rotating towards the bot side of the map. It means that BLG continue to mount their advantages. A clean scoreline of 5-0. The TP, oh, a double TP actually. They're trying to collapse onto Knight or Beishuan. I don't think they're really going to get much off the back of this. Owner, though, heavily committing onto Knight.
Yeah, T1 really want to get some kind of a punish here. Knight still trying to get away when becomes lightning slows him down. Carrier misses the winner's bite. Exhaust used to guarantee that Knight can't try to get anything back. Slows him down enough. Shut down over to Faker. 18 minutes and 51 seconds into the game. T1 gets their first kill.
State is a little bit awkward, but they find the pick that they were looking for. Without Knight, it becomes a lot harder for BLG to contest. BLG instead are setting their sights on the mid-tier 1. They want to be able to trade this neutral. They're going to pick it up.
Carrier with the Glacial Fissure trying to stop the exit of BLG there, but BLG can get away safely. They don't have to spend any summoner spells doing that. Owner still working on taking this dragon down. And the important thing here, I think, for T1, they got the pick on Knight at a time where they can then stop further stacking towards a soul from BLG without having to do a big team fight. Bin doesn't seem to care about Kanik Rookern anymore right now either. He's already got a big mask and a little mask, and that Kanik Rookern is not doing enough to defend Doran from it.
I mean, Doran also only just ticked over to level 12. There is that 2-level difference between the two top laners.
That might play a little role.
But I love the play from T1 earlier where they find that pick on Knight. And as you rightly said, just alleviating the dragon pressure. We talked about that spike in Elk and Beishuan hit it a few minutes ago, but it's such a terrifying thing to play against. Double Trinity Force, it's a pretty expensive item, but having it completed, it just gives you so much power. It gives you so much of what champions that run it want. And so with no neutrals on the map to play for, you kind of set your sights on these outer towers, but of course, no outer towers to play for. Now, BLG is the type of team that when they know they're stronger, will say, I don't care what it is, I'll use anything to force a fight against you. And so that means that Artican's priority will definitely rise up as BLG, based on what we've seen so far at MSI, like to try and push the advantage.
You know what's stronger than a Trinity Force power spike, Vedius? A Trinity Force power spike with a fully evolved Muramana power spike, which is what
nice.
Elk just ticked over to as he fully stacked the item. This Ezreal is a monster now, as you can see the damage from the True Shot Barrage into Gumayushi. Hits him for about a third of his health just with that spell, and the Mystic shots are going to hurt. Remember, again, finally, we're seeing some armor on Doran here with a chain vest, but it's still not going to give him a ton of resistance against the power of this Ezreal.
You can see all this vision control being invested by T1, expecting the Artican to be prioritized soon, but Gumayushi hasn't had a chance to go back to base, is still at about 75% HP, getting a little bit of life back. But on now in a dangerous spot. We'll jump over the wall to safety. Knight going to try and push in that bot wave. Elk pushing in the mid wave once more. Faker working with Carrier to hold good vision control around this Artican, making it harder for BLG to start this objective off.
We've got the Void Staff fully completed for Knight now too, and he has his flash up. This is a massive playmaking tool for the side of BLG. Their summoners are all ready, their combat summoners, excuse me, are all ready to go. Two of the teleports aren't. The only exception is Beishuan's flash is not quite ready. If they want to wait on that and then try to force the Otacon, they would have everything possible at their disposal to use against T1. T1's combat summoners, though, also all prepared right now, except for the flash on Doran. That one's going to come up right about the same time Beishuan's does, as T1 will see if they can continue trying to defend this objective. Both of the potential skill shots there towards On miss their mark, as the BLG support feels confident stepping up, trying to clear away some of the vision. Otacon, though, does hurt, so On doesn't want to hang around here too long, leaves that last hit on the ward for Knight. And it's 2 minutes until our next Drake spawns. 2,500 gold lead for BLG, still having the bonus stat advantage as well from the boots. But one thing that's important to note that makes this gold lead less than you might otherwise think, the flower advantage for T1 is actually really huge. They're at plus 15 flowers, despite the fact that Otacon hasn't been claimed by either side. This gives them a lot of extra adaptive force and makes that 2,500 gold lead feel at least 1,000 less.
BLG for the time being are holding on to the control of this game very well. I like how T1 have been combating back with good vision coverage. Carrier working with Faker to push out these waves and then drop what vision they can. Of course, we've been talking a lot about the level advantage that Bin has been able to build, but look at Faker, level 15 to the level 13 of Knight. That 10 fully stacks from the Rod of Ages coming in clutch for him.
Big.
We'll see the resets coming through as the second item is now completed for Bin. Dragon in about 55 seconds time, so BLG, rather than utilizing the Otacon to force the issue, will likely look to contest this Dragon. Now, T1 have a choice. They could forego contesting this Dragon at all, but if they do get it, they would put themselves on Soul Point and have a lot of agency in this game. Elk, though, huge damage on the Carrier.
Carrier's already almost dead, uses the Unbreakable to guarantee the True Shot Barrage. Doesn't have a chance of executing him there, but with Carrier barely able to stay standing, that is BLG's go signal to start up the Otacon. T1 looking to approach, but BLG is ready for him. The Otacon down to 1/3 HP. Keep your eyes on Doran. That could be the big engage, but Knight is waiting over along in the tri-barrage. Doran tries to fire back into him. Pressure on Bin, and Doran immediately now as the Otacon's going to be stolen away by Owner. Baseline is low. On is already down. Gumayushi with the kill. Knight has to try to run away alongside Bin as Owner kills Baseline too. Elk has to try to get away, and Owner is on the chase. Bin and Knight trying to escape, and T1 work their magic again.
T1 find the fight. It feels like that this game has just been driven by BLG, but after chipping away at the HP of Carrier, why wouldn't they feel confident to start off the Otacon? Why wouldn't they feel good to try and force the fight? I think the biggest problem was that the combo from Knight came down onto Doran, the frontliner, the tank. Oh, BLG, though, they're responding.
Yeah, BLG thinking about this. The Unbreakable gonna stop another true shot barrage. Elk jumps in. Carrier's still low. Ben wants to burn them all up. A little bit more damage isn't there, though, as Ben gets stunned. T1 continuing their retreat. BLG trying to find anybody as the ace in the hole forces BLG to regroup to protect Knight's health bar. And T1 exfiltrates the hot zone after pulling off the fight.
T1 get everything that they could have wanted. A winning team fight, the Arakan, the Dragon, putting themselves on soul point as well. The way in which they've just changed the momentum of this game. And this gold lead is now very deceptive because when you contrast the itemization, things are pretty much dead even across the board. The only real itemization difference sitting on the top lane.
The reason for that, Vedius, it's a plus 1.8, 1.9 thousand lead for BLG. Owner jumps in. On, going to be taken down to 1/3 HP now as the equalizer fires back from Ben to guarantee that T1 doesn't want to chase further. Owner at 40% HP. BLG continuing to step away to the side here as T1 pressure forward, looking for the tier 1 turret. Doran being the front line, creating the space for Gumayusi to take the objective. The gold lead for BLG shrinks to 1,500. However, it's 30 flower petals to 3. That is a 2.1 thousand gold lead for T1 in intangible gold. 2,000 minus 1,500 is plus 500 effective gold for T1.
I think that the atomization is just on the right people as well. Guma and Faker have been farming exceptionally well. Faker's got a 2.5 level advantage over Knight. Knight is fishing for a pick, but Owner's there to cover.
Okay, Owner trying to protect, but Owner may just have to give his life for this. Wants to dash back over to Beishuan for safety. Owner will die, and Faker's the next target. Timbers and Beishuan charging forward as On locks up the T1 mid laner, but Faker's getting away for now. Doran with a massive orb ulti over the top, and Knight's over it again. Beishuan follows. BLG are buried in their hubris as they try and fail again to kill Faker.
If you're going to come at the GOAT, you best not miss, because the consequences of what happens when you do are massive. 3 members of BLG fall after Doran. I mean, he just makes up for all the mistakes he's made in this game. A massive Ornn ultimate connects onto so many members of BLG. It's Owner that gets one shot from the start. This is the damage potential that we've been talking about from the very start of the game, seeing it in action. BLG with 4 members on the top side think they get this collapsed, but Doran arrives, and look at this ulti. BLG's getting collapsed on the Braum ulti from Carrier as well. The knocker onto Knight. Faker with the assist on the back line. T1 respond with force and find themselves 3 kills.
What a massive, massive turnaround. Doran showing up when T1 needs him. We think about the entire change in the roster. We think about how controversial it was with T1 swapping out Zeus for Doran. And right there, he's getting himself a couple of points, I would have to think. As BLG thought about starting up the Baron, they think better of it. The gold lead now on the screen, very close between the two. But again, remember, a massive amount of additional stats for T1 through the flower petals. On trying to make sure that he's got additional information on the backside of the pit here. As T1 are close enough, they don't even have to walk into the river. BLG know they need to get out.
BLG using the Baron to see if they can force T1 into an awkward situation, but T1 maintain their composure. On the flank.
On's looking for it, but he immediately gets counter-engaged. On has to try to get away. Flashing out after using the crash down defensively as well, but a nice engage from Knight. Beishuan's ready to follow it up, and Faker's in danger. Again, though, he survives. Gumayusi with the kill into Beishuan, as Elk just barely survives the ace in the hole. Owner continues the chase, as On's about to die here too. Elk and Ben completely on the run. BLG utterly routed in their attempt at a fight. Ben will be able to teleport to safety alongside Elk. Yes, they won't die, but Vedius, there's 2 dead BLG players, there's 2 in retreat, and now the Baron's on the menu for T1.
Every attempt that is made by BLG is shut down. The idea is so good. Faker isolated in the mid lane. You think that you have the one-shot potential, but it's not quite enough. The Ezreal ultimate from Elk is a nice try, but the Baron will be secured by T1 as they're looking to go to match point here in game 2.
Before that, they're looking to go to Soul. They just got the Baron. They went back, they reset, they purchased their items. 3,000 gold lead up to 5,000 when you consider the pedal bonus. And now they're moving down towards the river. BLG have made their way up here, so they'll at least have an opportunity to try to fight for this. But they don't have a jungler. There's still 10 seconds before Beishwan is back alive. And T1 have already started the objective. Owner and Gumayushi putting a little bit of DPS in there, but they're DPSing very slowly. BLG trying to walk up, seeing what they might be able to find. They're marking Doran there with the pings, but it's a line of cupcakes from Gumayushi, and it's so difficult to fight through for BLG. The Ocean Dragon is the target. On wants to find some sort of an angle, but all he gets is a face full of bullets. Doran is joined up with the rest of the team, and once again, they're gonna go in. This time they find the shutdown on Faker, but it costs Beishwan's life. T1 trying to regroup. They're gonna claim the Ocean Soul, but what about the rest of the fight? Doran's down to a corner. Owner jumps in on top of everybody, and Gumayushi's ready to free fire. 9 and on, both drop, and there's only 2 still standing for BLG. Elk on the run, Carrier ready to chase. Winner's bite, not quite enough range, and T1 finally, Faker drops, but the cost is far too great. Carrier will get picked off by Elk on the back end of the fight, but T1 is pushing 2 lanes.
BLG execute upon their game plan. The wombo combo looks so good, but at this point it feels like the T1 is just too far ahead with the soul secured as well. In the extended fight, they're able to make magic happen once more. 2 additional towers secured, and BLG find themselves firmly on the back foot. We'll see the engage come through from the MasterCard Priceless moment onto Faker. The combo with the Rumble ultimate, with the Wukong. Faker doesn't get a chance to escape, but the response is swift from Guma. He takes out Beishwan. In the 4 versus 4, it looks like it could go either way as Doran gets lower and lower, but then the ulti from Doran with fantastic patience. He works with Guma to pick them apart, and BLG falls short in the fights once more.
And when Faker died, the Chaos Storm was still raging on top of the Dragon, making it difficult for BLG to try to approach and do anything. Beishwan was the one traded, so there's no chance to smite it away, but even if anyone else wants to try to step up to challenge, the Chaos Storm is still there. T1 now with the soul, with the 4,500 gold lead, with the push here in the top lane. Doran with the call of the Forge God, and it's on! Called straight back into the grave yet again. Gumayushi unstoppable. T1 stepping forward behind the Braum, but they've stepped too far. They end up losing 1, but they are not done. A double for Guma, make it a triple. Caitlyn's on the hunt. She's locked and loaded. T1 on the victory march. Inhibitor down in the top lane as it's a 4-man push. Only Carrier died. Knight steps in. He goes for the engage, but he doesn't find anything. T1, they were behind for so long, but when they need to, they clutch it out. They'll take the Nexus turret. Faker steps in. Elk stays alive. The Nexus will not. And T1 go up 2-0.
It is the intangibles that you cannot quantify for T1, regardless of their form. When it comes to international competition, they are a force to be reckoned with.